Call this meeting of the Human Services, Finance, and Policy Committee to order. We do not yet have a quorum, so we will proceed with our meeting agenda and then establish our quorum and approve the minutes a bit later on. There's a heckler in every crowd, isn't there, Mr. Chair? So, the first bill on today's agenda is House File 4491. Chair Schomacker, would you like to move your bill?
I would like to, but if we don't have a quorum, I can't, Mr. Chair.
So we really cannot conduct any business until the quorum is here.
Well, we can talk about it.
Now we have a quorum? Oh, yes. We now have a quorum. So now I would ask for the approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of March 18th, 2026? Would anyone like to move approval of those minutes? Thank you, Chair Knorr. The minutes are approved. Do we need a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Now, the first bill on today's agenda is House File 4491. Chair Schomacker, would you like to move your bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to move House File 4491 be laid over for possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill.
Very good. Well, let's hear your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This bill is a response to the department's prepayment review process that began this fall. And we're trying to work on adding guidelines and a framework for the department so that we know what is going on and what the process is, and the department knows what the process is according to state law. And so we're working on that program to do the payment review for high-risk programs in the fee-for-service category. Under this law, the commissioner would be required to do the following. Within 15 days of a program being designated high risk, the commissioner must establish a prepayment review process that will last up to 24 months. Provide a 10-day notice to providers who will undergo a prepayment review. The commissioner must also notify the chairs and ranking minority members of the committees with jurisdiction. During this process, nothing prohibits the continued enrollment of clients. And finally, when the prepayment review process ends, the commissioner is required to provide a report to the legislature with a summary of any sanctions taken and recommendations for modifying or terminating a program. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Very good. Thank you, Chair Schomacker. Is there anyone here to testify on this bill at this time? Is there anyone here to testify?
Really?
There we are. Please state your name, if you would, please.
Thank you, Chair Schomacker. I'm Nathaniel M. Olson, the disability advocate for the state of Minnesota, and I have to say, I agree with this bill. And the reason why I agree with this bill because of the failure of the Department of Human Services allowing this fraud to continue when vulnerable adults in the state of Minnesota are being taken advantage of. 8 months ago, we had somebody go homeless. And what did the Department of Human Services do? Not tell anybody in the committee. Minnesota Reformer is coming out with another person that is going to be homeless. More people I've heard on the news in the state of Minnesota. One lady said that she was in an ICS home. Her staff left. She has a 30-day notice. 30-day notice. And she doesn't know where to go. So the point of this, of the Department of Human Services standing here and saying they're willing to help this is not right. We need accountability right now. And I'm getting very sick and tired of the Department of Human Services excuses. Commissioner Gandhi is doing nothing to help. I would be a great commissioner because I would make sure that the disability people are safe. I'm sick and tired of votes getting not passed. This bill better be passed because it's now time for the Minnesota legislature to take it in their own hands because how many people are going to suffer under this state? How many? Over 600,000 people with disabilities, including myself and my little brother. Thank goodness my little brother's home with my parents. But I just cannot do this. And if something happens to me, I have a place to go. But I'm worried about these other people, and the failure of the Walz administration needs to stop. I will take any questions.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions for our testifier at this time? Hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to testify about this bill proposal? Hearing none. Oh, is there another testifier?
No, I was just hoping former Chair Dean would do that, but
Okay.
apparently not.
Very good. Now we'll move on to member questions. Are there any members? Are you keeping a list for me?
I am.
Please. Any member questions for Chair Schomacker on this bill? Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Schumacher, so just to give the public the benefit of the doubt, excuse me, this prepayment review is currently being implemented. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I've missed that.
Sorry about that. Just needed to clear my throat a little bit. So the current ongoing prepayment review, is this going to be sufficient to allow that to continue?
Chair Schomacker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Chair Knorr. That is my understanding of what we're trying to do here, is to not hinder the process that we have currently, but to also stand it up in statute moving forward.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The other question that I have is, can we expand the prepayment review to other programs? Sorry.
Chair Schomacker.
Easy for you to say, Mr. Chair. Yes, there is a room for expansion with this. Of course, as we continue the negotiation with this being laid over, we have many more opportunities to look at the overall scope of what we have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Schomacker. Chair Knorr, any other questions? No, good. Are there any other questions from other representatives here today? Yes, go ahead, Chair Gordon.
Thank you, Mr.
Rep. Gordon.
Chair. So there's nothing in here that would stop the agency from extending the prepayment review process, right? So there's the report due, and then, I mean, can they just extend it after the 2 years is up, or would they need our approval again after that report is delivered to us, or?
Chair Schomacker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Gordon. Some of that would depend on what the CMS requires of the programs when that gets put into the status that it has in order to go into the prepayment review. And so we would be looking to CMS for guidance on a lot of that.
Representative Gordon. Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding this bill? Oh, go ahead. Rep. Backer.
Yes, thank you, there, Representative, and then Chair. So in regards with this program, so in essence, what we're attempting to do is make sure the services are provided first before the payment goes out. That's really what the nuts and bolts of this bill does, correct?
Mr. Chair, Representative Backer, that's the nuts and bolts of it, yes, yes.
Which is good. Making sure we get paid for services that are done. Thank you, there, Chair Schomacker.
Chair Schomacker, any final comment to that?
Not at all.
Okay, any other member questions? Seeing none. Chair Schomacker, final comments on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to renew my motion that House File 4491 be laid over for possible inclusion.
Chair Schomacker renews his motion and House File 4491 is laid over. So we are on to the next item, which will be our House File 4338. And we're going to have some testifiers here. So the next bill on today's agenda is 4338. Chair Schomacker, would you like to move your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd move that House File 4338 be laid over for possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill.
Very good. I see there is an amendment. Would you like to move your amendment to get your bill in the shape that you'd like?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to move the A1 amendment. This is technical assistance from the Department of Health related to Section 3 of the bill.
Very good. Is there any discussion to the amendment? Is there any discussion to the amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Very good. The motion is adopted. The A1 is adopted. Rep. Schomacker, to your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. House File 4338 is a bill that aims to provide fairness and take the first steps towards some red tape relief and long-term care. Section 1 places MDH in the same playing field as other state agencies, with the exclusion of DHS, by requiring that the department is subject to paying attorney fees upon successful appeal of an administrative proceeding, like overturning a deficiency citation. This section also updates the maximum annual revenue of an organization eligible to recover attorney's fees to $13.5 million, which accounts for the CPI inflation since the last time this value was revised in the year 2000. This change should not have a cost to it because the fees can only be recovered if the department is erroneously issuing deficiencies in the first place. But we do have a fiscal note requested just to be sure. Section 2 clarifies the existing requirements for summoning devices, which are commonly known as call buttons in assisted living settings, and that's the piece that we just amended in the A1 amendment. Sections 4 and 5 reflect technical changes that replace obsolete language referring to housing with services and exempting them from paying the Minnesota care tax, replacing it with a current license reference in 144G. This language also appears in the governor's policy proposal. And with me today are two testifiers to help support this bill.
Thank you, Chair Schomacker. Before we go to testifiers, just a quick note. We do have a fairly full agenda, so if you could keep your testimony to around 2 minutes, we would greatly appreciate it. And so welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and please begin your testimony. We'll start with Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kyle Burnt. I am here today on behalf of the Long-Term Care Imperative to explain sections 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the proposal. Facilities are being cited for not providing a summoning device despite concerns that a resident is clinically incapable of using such a device. The solution to this is a person-centered plan, not a one-size-fits-all approach to summoning. In the bill, you will see Section 2 provides that a facility may use person-centered strategies to provide residents the ability to request assistance, and it provides an exception to that for those who are not able to use a summoning device. In Section 3, you will see the alternative to a summoning device. Again, I want to thank MDH for their technical assistance in drafting this, the amendment for this to update the provision. The language provides that an individualized nursing assessment recognizes that a resident cannot reliably use a summoning device. If so, then the facility is not required to have a summoning device, and it's important to have the "and" word there, must provide person-centered strategies to meet the resident's assessed needs. The goal of the exception is not to remove protections, but to allow ones that work better for the residents, and removes the paperwork and red tape compliance that does not benefit residents in their situation. Sections 4 and 5 of the bill are a technical change, updating the reference from 144D to 144G. When we were getting this drafted, we were not aware that it would be also in the agency bill and a reviser's bill, so it's likely unnecessary at this point, but it is still in the bill because, of course, it's just a very technical fix. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague to explain Section 1.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, my name is Kayla Kang, and I am also here on behalf of the Long-Term Care Imperative. I'm here to provide some background and context behind the proposed change in Section 1. Minnesota's Equal Access to Justice Act provides a mechanism that permits private parties to recover attorney's fees from state agencies which have acted in a manner that is not substantially justified through judicial or contested case hearing processes. MDH and DHS are the only two agencies who are currently protected from being subject to recovering the cost of attorney's fees if the provider wins their appeal. Unfortunately, our two associations regularly hear from members who are frustrated with MDH and how much variation they experience with regulatory compliance. MDH may issue a deficiency for a policy at one facility, but find it in compliance at another location operated by the same organization. We have members who have been issued a citation and deficiency twice for the same alleged violation. This adds complexity, cost, and red tape that does not help consumers. MDH recently informed one of our members that they could just, quote, move the elevator and dining room to the other side of a door of their existing building so that it conforms with the 2025 law requiring a 2-hour fire barrier. Put simply, this change is about fair due process for long-term care providers. Many of them exist on thin budgets and cannot take on complicated appeals without legal support. They should be able to recover the cost of those fees if their appeal is successful, just like they could if this was DNR, Commerce, Ag, or any other agency. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Kyle, Kayla, thank you for your testimony. Please stay nearby in case we have member questions for you. We do have one more testifier, if she could come forward at this time. Please state your name for the record and give your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Gander. Good morning, committee members. My name is Pariche Rudina with the Office of Ombudsman for Long-Term Care, here today on behalf of the Consumer Advocates Coalition. I'll start by saying we're appreciative of the imperative's openness to discussion on this bill and largely support it. Person-centered planning for requesting assistance when a pendant or similar device doesn't work for somebody is the best, most appropriate strategy, and we appreciate the amending language. We do have some questions about Section 1 of the bill that we wanted to raise in committee. What are the unintended consequences of removing MDH licensees from the definition of party for contested case hearings? Does this change have an impact on how MDH functions? Would MDH be required to pay a significant amount in fees after a provider prevails in a contested case hearing? We are worried about the consequences fee shifting might have on MDH resources to do their regulatory jobs, especially without a specified dedicated source of funds. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Schomacker.
Thank you for your testimony. So at this time, we will go to member discussion and questions. Is there anyone, or first I should ask, are there any other testifiers for this proposed bill? Any other testifiers? Very good. Now we'll go to member discussion. Is there anyone with a question or comment? Oh, Chair Knorr.
I always have a question, so unfortunately. So my question, Mr. Chair, it's the Section 1, because it touches a little bit about contested cases. So does this have to go to judiciary? Because it's a little bit off the 144G sections in 2 and 3.
Chair Schomacker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Chair Knorr. We've discussed this with the folks in judiciary. They haven't indicated a need to see it at this point, but we'll keep up the conversations and circle back with them as we go along.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Schumacher, the second part is the changes. I know you said it's based on inflation from 7 to 13.5 million. How does that really work?
Chair Schumacher.
Yes, so it's based on the amount of revenue that the facility generates. And so in the year 2000, the legislature determined that if the facility had generated $7 million in revenue, that they would be able to access this fund retrieval there. It's been 26 years, and so moving it up to the 13.5 million means that organizations that have $13.5 million or less in revenue each year would be able to qualify for this piece, but no one above that would still qualify.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have enough resources to cover, because we're increasing the utilization at that point because there'll be more individuals qualifying? Have we looked at the number of businesses who will qualify for that?
Chair Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Chair Knorr. I don't have an exact number for that yet. I'm sure the fiscal note will help us identify some of what that is, and then the second part just comes down to just how many claims does the department think that it's going to have sent back to them on that, which is a tricky one for them to answer, as it would be for anyone.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have a question for Chair Schumacher about this bill? Seeing none. Usually the guy sitting right there is full of questions.
Yeah, and yet nothing today, Mr. Chair. I'm shocked.
Mr. Chair,
Got to concentrate.
you can always ask questions when you're sitting.
All right. So here we are. We're going to wrap this up. Chair Schumacher, do you have any final remarks about your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just say with this one, it's a good step forward, and there's a lot of work that can be done as we try to relieve some of the red tape pieces that our providers face in in this area. We've talked about well-intentioned, unintended consequences in the past, and this is one small step in that direction to clean that up. And with that, Mr. Chair, my trapper keeper and I would like to renew our motion that House File 4338 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion.
Chair Schomacker renews his motion that House File 4338 is laid over.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. No, thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is House File 4288, Representative Franson. And as she makes her way forward, Representative Franson moves that House File 4288 be laid over for possible inclusion in the future omnibus bill. Representative Franson, whenever you are ready.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank you and your trapper keeper for allowing this bill to be in front of the committee today. So House File 4288 is regarding the Family Residential Services to reenact the framework rates. Members, I have heard from around the state and in my district how the rate changes have impacted these providers, and I am extremely concerned that our most vulnerable will be left without places to go. You know, from what I've heard, it will be less than minimum wage for providers to continue taking care of these individuals. And I really do hope that this committee takes this very seriously. I think we have some providers that are willing to testify. I would like for you to hear from them how the new framework has affected them. And I want you all to remember, we love our businesses across the state, but we don't have a problem jumping when they say they need a tax cut here and there in order to keep them afloat. These are our most vulnerable people. They do not have fancy, high-paid lobbyists to advocate for them. They use us as their voice and the care residents that take care of them. So I am excited for you to listen to hear from them.
Thank you, Representative Franson, for those opening remarks. We do have a series of testifiers for this bill. First up is Linda Fairchild.
Good morning, Chair Schomacker and Human Services Finance Policy Committee. For the record, my name is Linda Fairchild, and I'm a family residential service provider in Wright County. I've been providing family residential services for 36 years. I've cared for 4 adults with severe behavioral and medical issues in my home 24/7 for 20 plus years. It's a job I love and want to continue to do. I'm here to ask you to hear and pass House File 4288, which would move family residential services back to the DWRS frameworks in 2027. Thank you to Representative Franson for this bill, and I implore you all to read the letter she wrote to DHS. These are all questions and concerns families have had about this. The letters of testimony from other providers in your packet tell the story of the impact flat rate will have and how cost effective we are. The DWRS frameworks consists of 16 different DWRS framework categories. Family residential services this year were removed from the framework per 2023 statute to the flat tiered rates for 2026 upon federal approval, which has not happened yet. All 245D framework categories follow the statute and rules for 245D, and that will still include family residential services. Even when we are moved to the flat rate, we are mandated to follow the same statutes. DHS recommended to you in 2023 to vote to move us to the flat tier rate as a cost-effective savings. This will not be a cost-effective savings, as many homes will close because they will not be able to keep their doors open with this reduced budget and still mandated need to follow all of the rules. For my home, this is a 53% reduction. All family providers want is to be treated with respect and dignity for the care we provide in our own homes. For some of us like me, that's 24/7. Please support House File 4288 and pass it. It is not fair for only one of the 17 framework categories, family residential services, to not be part of the framework, but still obligated to do the same work. Thank you, Chair Schomacker and Human Services Finance Policy Committee, for letting me speak to you today.
Thank you, Ms. Fairchild, for your testimony. Next, we have Judy Ann Fridgen. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and present your testimony.
Hi, Chair Schomacker and House and Human Services Finance and Policy Committee members. I am Judy Ann Fridgen, a family residential care provider. I support House File 4288. While some people do well in community residential service programs, please recognize that there are populations that do not do well in these larger settings, and we need both worlds. The flat rates are not cost-effective for many of us. For most programs, this is a 24-hour care and supervision. Most often, the flat rates are less than minimum wage in a 24-hour period. Please understand this is not take-home pay, and it will force programs to close across the state. We not only provide the same services and requirements as a community residential setting, but we also provide the love of a family. A person served in our home does not wish to be with their family due to the extensive abuse that they've been through. This person's dream was to have a family setting. Isn't this why we have programs like these, to make these dreams happen? There's a human cost for the flat rates. When our programs close, the people we support will be forced to look for new homes. To find a new home locally in the same community would be nearly impossible. Not only will they be forced to move away from what they consider their home, their families, but they will also lose their ability to see their friends and the same jobs and have their healthcare teams. Can you even imagine yourself going through all of this? It's a lot of stress. This will cause a mental health crisis nobody is prepared for. We are not just looking at a bill or a budget, but at people's lives. I think we all sadly know and have seen the unfortunate ways the people we support have been mistreated. They have been teased, picked on in schools and buses and in the community. As kids, they were often left out of birthday parties, not chosen first for teams. We are all familiar with the R word. Let's not forget the abuse and trauma from institutions. These are beautiful souls we are talking about. But I must ask, are we somehow no better than these that have mistreated them when we force them from homes, communities, and the friends they love? Please support House File 4288. Thank you, Chair Schomacker and the House and Human Services and Finance Committee members, for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Fridgen, for your testimony this morning. Next, we have Sandra Bond. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and present your testimony.
Chair Schomacker and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of House File 4288. My name is Sandra Bond. I serve as president of Marsh, representing providers across Minnesota, including myself, as I am also a provider of family residential services. I am here today not only as an advocate, but as someone who sees firsthand every day the very real and escalating consequences these policies are creating. House File 4288 is urgently needed because the implementation of a flat rate system will destabilize a critical part of Minnesota's disability services system. The flat rate structure is fundamentally misaligned with the federal mandates that 245D programs are required to deliver. It does not support one-to-one or two-to-one staffing, awake overnight care, nursing oversight, or the time required for compliant documentation. These are not optional. They are federally required and essential to safety and quality care. When funding does not reflect those realities, providers are left with two options: operate at a loss or close. And closures are already happening. From September 2025 through February 2026, 55 homes have closed, eliminating 141 beds across Minnesota. These are people losing homes, families scrambling, and providers pushed out of the system. At Donahue Foster Services, my company, we currently host 21 family residential service programs. We are already seeing the impact. We have closed 3 of our family residential programs, transitioned 1 to a community residential services facility, and helped 3 more to move to another 245D host. 3 more will close by April 30th, 2026, and if we can't get this bill passed, the remaining will close before the end of the year. As a business owner, I made the difficult decision to close programs because continuing would put us at risk for maltreatment, not due to lack of care or any malfeasance, but because the funding structure does not allow us to meet the federal HCBS requirements of the individuals that we support. That is the reality providers are facing. HF 4288 provides a path forward. It corrects the framework and properly incorporates family residential services back into the disability waiver rate system that aligns with the federal mandates. It creates a transparent, data-driven rate methodology that reflects rate service costs, and it addresses workforce realities, which are essential to maintaining services. Let me be direct. If the state requires providers to meet federal requirements, the rate structure must support those requirements. Right now, it does not. If we do nothing, more homes will close, capacity will shrink, and individuals will be forced into more restrictive and costly settings. And once this infrastructure is gone, it is extremely difficult to rebuild. HF 4288 is the opportunity to stop that from happening. If this legislation passes, Donahue Foster Services will continue to offer family residential services, the work that has defined our organization for over 22 years. On behalf of Marsh, the providers we represent, and the individuals we support, we urge you to support this bill, because this is not improving a system. It is about preventing its collapse. Once these homes are gone, the people who relied on them don't just lose services, they lose safety, stability, and their family homes. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bond, for your testimony today. Next, we have Katie Olson. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and present your testimony.
Hi, my name is Katie Olson. I am the CEO of a family foster care facility, Grace Living Homes, in Cold Spring, Minnesota. I wanted to share to make you understand that a family residential foster home is not a family foster home where we are caring for our own loved one. I want to make sure that you all understand that distinction, that we are a family provider, so a individual with disabilities lives in my home with my family, with my husband and my 2 children, and they come to my family events, they hang out, and I hang out with their family as well. But we are providing services to an individual who could receive services in a corporate setting as well. We provide the exact same services. We are just owned by we live in our home, our family home. So we are not a loved one providing services. So when you are looking at the framework that we are established under, you aren't paying a parent as a caregiver of their child. You are paying a corporate licensed home. We are the same statute requirements. We have the same training requirements, and we request that we are paid the same. With these rate tier cuts, we are moving to about $2.88 an hour. And so this is going to be a massive cut in our daily wages, as well as this is going to be a shift of costs. I want you to understand that when we close, these people are going to still exist. You're going to have to move them somewhere else. My personal individual came from a corporate environment before, and so looking at their previous rates and then placing them back into a corporate home, it is a $40,000 increase in their annual budget that will have to occur, placing them back into a corporate environment just by removing me from the picture. And not only do I remove from the picture, but I am his one-to-one staff at his home where he gets to live and make choices every day. In a corporate environment, there is more than me. There are 8 other people in that home that also have salaries and wages. So while it seems like there is a cost reduction by adding rate tier systems into the equation, it is just a cost shift because the programs still need to exist, and corporate providers to overhaul this system change, to take over once the family providers are all gone, are going to need to create new homes, hire new staff, establish more care providers all over the state. So it's going to be a massive increase once this exodus occurs. So we're requesting that you bring us back to the DWRS system, balance back the ecosystem that we all live in. By removing us, we're removing choice from people that already don't have a lot of choice in every day that they choose. And we want to give them the autonomy, give them the power back, and not making choices for them that they aren't a part of. And so I understand that budget and fiduciary responsibility is important, and I believe that it's important for everyone, and we do not want to balance the budget on the backs of people who have quiet voices or aren't here represented. And so that's why I'm here today, is to ask you that
while I understand we do have major cuts coming down, and the governor requests even additional cuts in this next budget, we can maintain budget cuts across the system. We can equally have cuts where it doesn't decimate one portion of the DWRS system that completely decimates the ecosystem and then causes a great shift in another aspect. I also want to clarify that when you're looking at the 2019 study that pushed the rate tier system into effect, the family services provider that you'll see across the United States that is on a rate tier system, they are family providers where they are providing care to their loved ones. So I did take it upon myself to review state statute across all 50 states, and there isn't another state that operates the way Minnesota does, where we have a family residential service and a corporate or a community residential service that operate under the same type of legislative requirements, federal requirements. They do have different licensing requirements across the nation. So for us to be the same at the same level, 245D compliance, local compliance, federal compliance, but to now be on a rate tier system is vastly inappropriate, because we do the same job, we do the same support, and we are equally as important in this ecosystem to provide services to. Thank you for your time, Chair, and all of you people here in the House Services Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Olson, for your testimony this morning. Finally, for the prepared testifiers, we have Julie Steinke. Welcome to the committee. When you're ready, please state your name for the record and present your testimony.
Hi, my name is Julie. My last name's spelled Steinke. I prefer to go by Jules. That's what most people know me as. I have written many letters. I call them 5-alarm fire letters. And I probably got maybe a handful of responses, and that was from last year. The year before, I tried to testify, and I was in the other body, and I was told that there was not enough time for me to speak about this, even though there was only 2 testifiers. I'm sure you've all gotten my letters. I don't want to try to be redundant, but we are not asking for more. I am currently on the DWR system. I do not have an exception for my individual that I take care of, who is towards the end of his life. And I will end up with the way it is now, a 42% overall cut just overnight like that, and expected to do everything that I am expected to do right at this moment. And I would like to ask you, if all of you had your budgets reduced 42%, I know somebody who works within the frameworks rate, it's gonna be 84%. Would you be able to wake up tomorrow morning, continue to do everything that you're required to do with 42 to 84% less? You guys pass bills that make us do that. My person doesn't have family they can go to. That's why they're with me. They came from a corporate foster care, which is not the same as community residential services. DHS has failed. Their website has failed. It's confusing. Thank goodness Waiver Reimagine is being paused because that's on fire. And if someone would have listened 5 years ago, 6 years ago about Waiver Reimagine, just think about the money you guys would have saved back then. But we don't have representation. I come from Mille Lacs County. I came down here last night to make sure that I could be here this morning to speak. I got 3 hours of sleep, and then I'll be driving back home where my husband is and my foster care client is, which is not the same as adult foster care because everybody confuses that too. Adult foster care is different than family residential services. I'm sick of seeing these new programs come up to circumvent the moratorium on corporate foster care to get different funding streams. It's ridiculous. The fraud is ridiculous. I expect the entire program, including the one that I'm in, to be looked at. Every single one. The fraud is across the state, across services. I have seen it myself, and nobody listens. I've called the fraud hotline to see what they do. I got a call back, I think it took 2 months. And the fraud I reported, they still got paid, and they shouldn't have. And it's shameful. And there's no mechanism for that. When you guys license homes or any kind of thing, the consequences for not doing your job when you're a provider are so minimal. Why bother having them? You don't have a background study? Oh, $200. Big deal. You don't have a background study for 5 years and you haven't gotten licensed for 5 years? It's $200. You have a maltreatment investigation against you, depending, it's all individual, but if you have a maltreatment or 25 different citations when you get licensed, do you think those places get closed down? No. Do you think they're providing wonderful services? No. And it happens across all services, so I'm not picking on anybody. Across all services. The fraud is across all services, from the top of the state to the bottom of the state. It is everywhere. Everywhere. And if it does not get stopped, there will not be enough money in DHS to help one person, not one. And that's what lights me on fire every single day. Every day. People have died because if you're not getting services and you're paid for 12 hours of services, you better be given 12 hours of services, not checking on somebody twice a day where, oops, we didn't check on them and since yesterday and now they're dead. Or the gentleman who's in assisted living, who didn't get assistance, who's suffocated to death. My dad just happens to be named Larry, the same guy who died. He happened to have a scooter. He was a veteran also. Just because you have a no-lift policy doesn't mean you are not required to do first aid and put a person in a position so they can breathe, so they don't die. We are required to assist our people. It doesn't matter if you have a button that calls to say, help, I need help. What's the point if they can't help you? And they can't help you up and they can't help you not suffocate to death. Basic first aid, that's all it is. You don't have to pick a person up. Somebody with kind of common sense could have adjusted the guy so he was at least still breathing. But he is dead. And that is the worst part. And I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent, but I've been watching this stuff on YouTube and trying to learn all of this ins and outs to figure out, okay, what is going to work? What can I say that is going to make people understand how broken right now this system is? And it's been over the last several years, not just 2023, when we got totally taken off the rules with the DWRS system and whatnot. But that tiered system, I'll be closed. I'm on the DWRS right now without an exception. I will lose 42%. That means the quality of care for anybody who tries to stay open is gonna tank. People are gonna be harmed and more people are gonna die because providers are gonna try to hold on to everything they can to stay open, to take care of their people. And it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. I have a service agreement for my person until August. That's my day. August 1st of this year. The only reason I am still here is because CMS has not approved this tiered rate system that was supposed to start January 1st of this year. And that is the only reason we are still here. We're talking about people. I've never had to, I've been doing this since 2013. I have never had to come here once. This is the first time. I've had to write letters the last few years trying to stop it. I've never had to come here. I haven't come here when there's been cuts because we can just go with it. That, I don't care about that. But this tiered system is not going to work for our program. It won't.
All right, thank you, Jules, for your testimony today.
Thank you. I just want to remind you, you guys are the ones who write the laws. I wish you'd think A through Z and how it affects the people. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jules. That ends the list of people we had registered for public testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on House File 4288? Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and present your testimony.
Hello, my name is Christopher Freilinger. I'm part of a, Hello, my name is Christopher Freilinger. I'm part of a family foster care. And the place that I was not helpful. I would have spiraled out of control. The framework that I have right now allows me to have a job, be independent, and as independent as I can be, and it allows my life to be worth living. I can't see if it shuts down. The places I will probably be either on the streets or in jail shortly after. And people don't seem to think we exist just because we can't do things ourselves without help. We need help and it's hard. So I don't know how easier to say this, but if the place I'm living at shuts down, I'm basically screwed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Briner, for your testimony today. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and present your testimony.
Hi, my name is Carly Mannion, and I want to thank you guys all for hearing testimony, and I am in support of HF 4288, the bill to reenact the framework rates for the family residential services. I've been providing family residential services in my Woodbury home for 18 years. The first individual I supported had complex medical and physical needs and ultimately passed away in my home under hospice care due to those complications. The family was grateful she was able to be supported in a family home and was able to pass peacefully with her family surrounding her. Currently, I support 2 adults with disabilities living in my home. They moved into my home together 7 years ago when their family foster care home was closing. I was not set up to accommodate 2 individuals at that time, so I remodeled my home to accommodate them. They had been living together as roommates for decades. Moving together provided the support they both needed to survive the move and now thrive living in my home. I am the primary caregiver. There are 2 additional part-time support staff that support the individuals living in my home when I need time off. In order to get time off, I have to leave my home because that is where my work is. Both support staff have been working with these adults for over 5 years, and both residents benefit from the consistency of this care. The 2020 Minnesota Department of Human Services Legislative Report on the Disability Waiver Rate System Family Foster Care Rate Methodology Study conducted by the Disability Services Division of the Department of Human Services stated that, I quote, family foster care rate framework uses many of the same rate component values as corporate settings, even though these settings likely have different costs. I strongly disagree, as family residential settings share many of the same costs. Adult family foster care providers incur substantial annual expenses, workman's comp insurance, increased home, auto, and umbrella insurance premiums, a new $2,100 Minnesota adult foster care annual licensing fee, administrative and accounting expenses, 245D Minnesota licensing compliance costs, either through subcontracting or a direct licensure through the state of Minnesota, and payroll expenses. The new tiered flat daily rate does not account for the difference between individuals who attend day programs and those who remain home all day. At the same time, adult foster care providers like me have already endured multiple cuts over the years, making the changes even more concerning. Under this new tiered rate model, funding would be reduced for the people I support by 35%, a significant cut that severely underfunds the family residential services that I provide. I have considered closing my doors, which would force the individuals I support out of the least restrictive home setting and probably separate them. Sorry. It would reduce opportunities for community engagement and inclusion, possibly reducing the number of support staff hours, which then adds added stress on me. Changing the services I provide and how they are provided. Seeking additional employment outside of the home on top of providing adult foster care. All of these options that I have explored would cause destabilization to how the home is currently run and the care that I have provided. The adults I support thrive on consistency. When they do not know what to expect, it causes anxiety and increased negative behaviors. This includes self-injurious behaviors, hitting, punching, throwing chairs, failing to show up for work, overeating, increased illness, and thereby increasing medical appointments. Thank you. Family residential services and adult foster care. We are not institutions. They are family homes. My home is a small, community-based setting that allows adults with disabilities I support to live with dignity, choice, and belonging. I support Bill HF 4288. This bill would restore the framework rate methodology that appropriately reimburses family residential services based on the actual needs of the individuals I serve. The current flat rate system does not account for the complexity of care that I deliver every day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Mannion, for your testimony today. Questions from members? Representative Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to say thank you to the testifiers. We've been talking about the issue of FRS for a long time. I know that the implementation has not yet been effective. I don't know if anybody knows when that will be effective, but also wanted to make sure that we look into how the rate exceptions already that exist within the mean choices, how that will be impacting the bill that we have before us, and also looking forward to see the cost changes, because I know this is going to be increasing the cost, so we're able to manage what we can do during this session.
Thank you, Chair Knorr. Representative Franson, any response for that? Okay. Representative Gander.
Thank you, Chair Schomacker. First of all, I would say, Rep. Franson, you're a good one to bring this because you are a person who is really intentional about spending every dollar in government as efficiently as we can, right? And so you have credibility when you say we need to take a look at spending additional money here. You have some credibility there. Next, I wanted to echo Chair Knorr's thoughts of how moving this testimony was. We have a lot of testifiers who come before us, and some of them are really more compelling than others. Today, this was, for me, very compelling, and we're aware of this, but it even opened my eyes a bit more to what's in play, what's going to happen if we don't make this change. So my question then is, for you, Rep. Franson, would you please take a moment and tell us how you align your long record of fiscal accountability with the need to spend additional money here? Thank you.
Representative Franson.
Thank you, Representative Gander. I don't think I've ever been asked such a question before, so over my 16 years, thank you for this new curveball. We hear a lot about wage theft in this state, in this chamber, but I'm thinking today of care theft. When 42% or more is taken away, where is the care? And if we are supposed to take care of our most vulnerable, and we pride ourselves of this state of taking care of our most vulnerable, why is it every time there's budget cuts in the Department of Human Services in our field right here, that it's our least vulnerable that are cut? And I say it's because those voices don't have a voice, because they're unable to advocate. They don't understand themselves about what happens in government. It's their care providers that do. But for some reason, our government doesn't recognize that. And I find it disgusting. Like I said, we give all kinds of tax breaks to big businesses, to business in general, right? And we will bend over backwards to make sure that their business survives. But what about the least vulnerable? Or I should say the most vulnerable, not least vulnerable. Sorry, I meant most vulnerable, right? And we are supposed to be taking care of the least among us. That's how that got a little screwed up. Okay, I hope I recovered. But I'm reminded of one of my girlfriends is a family provider as well. And when she took on her first two ladies in her home, these girls, they're twins, they came to her, they're high needs, they're high needs from dusk till dawn and through until dusk again. It's 24 hours of constant care. When those girls arrived, it was nonstop screaming. All day, they were sleeping maybe 2-3 hours a day, if that, but it was nonstop moaning and screaming. Because of her and her advocacy, she spent hours and hours and hours studying the disease, or not the disease, but the condition that they have, right? And she advocated for those girls, unlike any other provider that had advocated for them. And today, that screaming has stopped and they are thriving. Their complex needs hasn't changed. But they're now at least able to sleep and not be that nonstop screaming. She's got another lady in her home. 19 times that lady was awake the other night. 19 times awake, walking around. And and the government wants to cut 42%? What happens then? Who wants to take such high-need, complex people if they're not getting the funding for the care that those individuals need?
Follow-up, Representative Gander.
Chair Schomacker, I find that to be a satisfactory answer. Thank you.
Representative Hicks.
Thank you. So I carried this bill last year. I made very similar arguments that you were making today. And I will continue to say that this committee frequently continues to have providers, in many cases for-profit providers, in front of us and not a lot of voices of people. And today is Disability Day at the Capitol. There'll be a rally here in a little bit. People are going to come around and talk to you. And I would encourage you, as those conversations are happening, to talk to the individuals receiving services and hear from them about what they need to remain in community. Don't talk to the provider. Talk to the person first. Because in this committee, we can stop this behavior if we, and I mean our behavior, to be clear, if we listen to people. So, thanks for trying again. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we can start listening to the folks that are actually receiving services.
Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Franson. Spot on this one. Since I've been here, I've never seen a stack of supportive letters as thick as this. And I think that really goes to show, I know we've changed people's hearts and minds before when we brought a lot of people in. EMS, the first year I was here, we had 150 people show up, and it changed people's minds. And I think this is going to change people's minds. This is not about this is not about quality of care. This is already a very high quality of care that we're giving them. The costs are short term if we don't look at the whole story. We need to look at what long term does with costs if these folks aren't in business, because that's where we're going to see the worst come from. And my question too is where will they go? Where will they go? And one of my constituents said that they probably would lose up to 70% of the income they receive. And so how can they stay in business? So where do these people go? Where will these clients, these people that are in need of these services end up?
Representative Franson.
Well, that's just it. Where will these individuals go? And we've heard they will go to a corporate setting most likely where costs are going to increase. So the state is not going to be saving any dollars. In fact, you're going to be increasing the cost of care. And there will be probably a budget change in the next biennium that says we're going to need more money for this care setting.
Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's what I believe too. Thank you, Representative Franson.
Any other questions from members? Final word, Representative Franson.
I want to thank you each and every one of you for listening. And seriously, I've watched each and every one of you, and there wasn't phone usage or staring at your computer. It was intent listening. So I want to thank you for that. And our least among us should be the most among us. So I hope that we can move this bill forward. Thank you, Chair Schomacker, and to your trapper keeper as well.
With that, Representative Franson renews her motion that House File 4288 be laid over for possible inclusion. Next, Representative Franson moves House File 4566 to be laid over for possible inclusion. Representative Franson, when you are ready, to your bill.
All right, let's do a little change of pace here, huh? Let's move on to House File 4566. Thank you again for this bill. House File 4566 is in response to the recent OLA report that came out March 17th. DHS investigations of alleged kickbacks in the Early Intensive Developmental and Behavioral Intervention Program, where the OLA said the department should amend its administrative rule to define fraud to clearly include kickbacks. Members, since my time here, I have heard about kickbacks. I've also heard kickbacks don't really exist. I've also heard that it's racist to talk about kickbacks, especially because they don't exist. Well, we find out indeed that kickbacks do exist. This bill requires the commissioner to use expedited rulemaking to clearly include kickbacks in the definition of fraud. It allows DHS to withhold or reduce payments when there is a verified, credible allegation of fraud, including kickbacks, so that our taxpayer dollars aren't being wasted away. According to the former U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson on the EIDBI fraud scheme, said people recruited and paid monthly cash kickback payments to parents to have their children diagnosed and enrolled to receive services at their location. These claims alone cost taxpayers $20 million. For too long, the department has let fraud and kickbacks happen. We should have a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to kickbacks. And Chair Schomacker, I have a testifier today as well.
All right. Next, we have former Representative Matt Dan, Policy Fellow at the Center for the American Experiment. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and present your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Matt Dean, and I'm a Policy Fellow with Center of the American Experiment, and it is a great pleasure to be here with you today. I thank Representative Franson for bringing this bill forward. I have included testimony in your packets, along with some links to some articles as well as the OLA report. So if you see that on your laptop, you can just click on that and refer to that. And also you might want to file that away, because I think it's going to come back between now and the end of session as you're wrapping up and trying to get things buttoned up with conference committee reports. I want to thank Representative Franson for bringing this forward. The OLA came out on St. Patrick's Day with this. And this is a kickback report, Department Human Services alleged kickbacks in EIBDI program. And what it said is what we've always heard, but never seen before. And now the OLA has gone in and said, yes, indeed, there are kickbacks in autism, which is an extremely expensive program, and it is one that is necessary for kids receiving this. Program is highly intensive, somewhat controversial, and it's been around for a long time. Is this a good use of resources or not? One thing everyone can agree on, it's very, very intensive, it's very expensive. So to get kids signed up for this program is somewhat difficult, and also to get it paid for, it's very, very expensive. So what that did is that attracted fraud. Those large, large dollars attracted fraud, unfortunately. And what you wouldn't think is that kickbacks are illegal. You know, if you're at Walmart or Target or Cub or wherever you shop, and somebody walked out the door with a T-bone steak, probably get stopped and say, well, it wasn't specifically stated that T-bone steaks are indeed theft. You'd probably, a common sense person would say, no, that's theft. Common sense people would say that kickbacks are theft and illegal. And whether they're at DHS, whether they're within the autism program, child care, non-emergency medical transportation, translation, or anything else, that's probably illegal. But what the department said was, no, actually, we have this old 1995 rule that says kickbacks aren't statutorily defined. We need statutory language in order to say that theft is theft. So that is what the DHS has been standing behind for this time, for not going after kickbacks. And what the OLA said was, you need to statutorily define that. For people on this committee, what that means is when DHS is sitting up here, you can say, no, actually, you not only have the authority, but you have the obligation to get that money back and to stop it. So what the OLA said is, legislature, put it in statute. That's what this bill does. Also, DHS said put it in statute, so they agree. That's what this does. So our recommendation would be to continue to work with the OLA as well as DHS, as well as the Attorney General, to make sure that this language is precise. It's what they need to go forward. And also, as a committee, gives you the tools that you need when DHS is here, to make sure that it's stopped and that people are prosecuted. And also to go after not just the providers that are breaking the law, but also parents and also the people that are engaged in this actual fraud. So that's what this bill does. It's a simple bill. It just corrects that language and moves on. Also, just in the next step, as you do button up for a session, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do at the center is help with any statutory language that is necessary to make sure that people don't get hurt. Fraud is going to be a big portion of this year's bills. And we've heard up here how every single time it seems that there's a cut, we all know who gets cut first. It's the people who need the most help. So that the department is good at doing two things. Basically, everybody around this building is good at doing two things, doing nothing and overreacting. Very good at both. So as you button up those bills, make sure that you don't hurt the people that we're here to help. So with that, just want to thank you for all the work that you do on this committee, and particularly the staff at the end of session. So thanks for all the work that you're doing, and look forward to help ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Dean, for your testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify in House File 4566? Seeing none, public testimony is closed. Questions for Representative Franson or her testifier? Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, thank you, Representative Franson, for bringing this bill forward. I don't think this bill defines what is considered to be illegal remuneration, which I think we did last session, which is also included under the expedited process, which is section 609.542. Is that the definition that we're using? Because this is adding the, what do you call, kickbacks under the credible allegation, meaning that this is the sanctions that are implemented under 256, under 256B as written right now, .064. It does not define. But also, if you put that language in that section, we're also missing if there's a safe harbor that is included under the federal statute, which is referenced on the back section for the rulemaking. I just wanted to make sure that the language really fits the purpose of the bill before us. Can you really explain how does this differ from the statutes that we, if Megan can remember this, which we worked on to make sure that we have got the correct definition in the federal law as written right now?
Sure, can we go to nonpartisan here? Phone a friend.
Ms. Sunderman.
Mr. Chair and members, in the bill on line 2.2, it cites back to the definition under subdivision 1A of 256B.064, paragraph C. So that references the crime of illegal remuneration that we put into statute last year under 609.542 subdivision 2, and a violation of the relevant federal law. So that does cite back to the existing definitions.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So adding to the credible allegation under this section, does it expand the definition under the federal law 455.23, which is specific in how we have defined that section of the law? I don't want to have the unintended consequences whereby if we put it under the credible allegation and within the federal rules, there is a safe harbor, meaning that there are exceptions included in there, which this definition of credible allegation may end up picking up those sections. And somehow, other places where there are exceptions, they will be included in because now we have added into the law without defining those exceptions.
Ms. Sunderman?
Mr. Chair, members, I would have to get back to you on the impact on federal law with this.
Chair Knorr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to keep the definitions separate. I think we can define, as we've already done last year, under the section 609.542. So we have implemented that change. We have codified kickbacks under Medicaid programs under that section. So if we wanted to expand the process, we can do that. But I just wanted to make sure that the sanctions and the implementation of the federal rules under the safe harbors are not included so that we cannot mingle the two sections. I want to keep the credible allegation under the 455.23, which is also the federal authorization for that, separate from the illegal remuneration.
Thank you, Chair Knorr. And I'm sure, of course, because this report came out just a couple weeks ago and we're on deadline, we had to get something put in quickly so we could have a hearing on that piece of it. I'm sure we'll be getting technical assistance from the department soon on some of these pieces so that we can get it done the way that it needs to be done.
Yes.
Thank you, Representative Franson.
And Mr. Chair, I think that the OLA has clearly defined what needs to be done and what needs to be followed, and we can always rely on we can always check back with the OLA to make sure that this bill is meeting their expectations. Does that work?
Chair Nor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. I think we need to get some additional help to understand how does this really fit in, and so we don't create unintended consequences with this addition.
Representative Gander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I really want to emphasize how important this is, and for sure y'all can weigh in on it. Suppose I'm an autism provider or acting like one, and suppose I go to Representative Murphy and I say, if you give me $100, I'll provide autism services to your child, whether they need them or not, to the tune of $10,000. I'm making up numbers. So I throw out that enticement. And anyone who comes to me and will give me, I'll give you $100 as an enticement. So in other words, you're not just dealing with that increment of $100. You're dealing with the total increment of all of the care that was not even necessary, that was maybe never provided. So that dollar amount of an enticement, that kickback, is just the tip of the iceberg. The amount that this can save, if we really dig down and find it, is enormous. You know, probably more than we know. And so, again, I thank you, even in the testimony that you gave, stressing the importance of autism is a serious condition. And the honest treatment of autism takes a lot of time. It's complex care. That's why it's such a high dollar amount, and it's absolutely necessary. No one in this room is saying autism is not a real thing. No one in this room is saying we don't need to wonderfully care for folks with autism. We're just going after that other part. And maybe you could weigh in and really show the importance of this with the scale of what it could be in total dollars. Thanks.
Representative Franson.
Well, I don't know the total dollars, but I do know that $1 of fraud is $1 that's not going to those that need it.
Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative. You bring up an excellent point, particularly for your work on the committee, that the needy shouldn't take the money from the greedy, and that's what's happening here. And also, if you don't have willing folks in the community willing to take that kickback, that stops the demand. So for every $1 of kickback, you're going to see $10 of provider costs. In this case, up to is $1,800 per child per month in terms of what the OLA was able to find. And that was just 3 instances where they said that we can't move forward. But whenever you get an OLA report, you're just looking at a very, very small sample of the overall amount of fraud that's in the system. And so for every $1 that you pick up, particularly on that, there is many times that in provider costs that are being taken away from kids who need that money, which is what it is.
Representative Gander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's good.
Representative Jacob.
Thank you, Chair Franson, for bringing this bill forward. Sitting on the OLA, or Legislative Audit Commission, immediately read the report, and I have to read just a couple sentences from the report here. OLA says that we disagree that the DHS did not have the ability to act upon allegations of kickbacks without legislative changes. And they go on to explain, they identified several ways DHS could have utilized its existing authority to address the allegations of kickbacks. So thank you so much for bringing this forward. It's very unfortunate that it takes legislation to correct a problem that already is legislatively, they could be doing the right thing without this, but thank you for doing this. So very frustrating sitting on that committee and watching this play out.
Thank you, Representative Jacob. Any response to that? Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Schomacker. And to our testifier, or to the author, I have a question. As I seem to recall, we had
some similar language that was in a previous bill that Representative Hicks had. And what I'm trying to do is there's a little difference in the wording in what I'm seeing in the language here versus what Representative Hicks had. I'm wondering, are we missing something on this one? And what I'm referring to is a bill that Representative Hicks had, which was 3423 that we heard earlier on. We had a DE amendment on it. And in the DE, we had direction of the commissioner for doing almost word for word what's here, but there was an extra section that was added in there that's missing here. And so I'm trying to figure out, the section that's missing was, it's under United States Code Title 42, Section 1320A-7B, parentheses B, parentheses 3, parentheses D. And the reason I'm asking is because as I'm looking at the language, there's a section that she had in hers that's not in this one. And I'm wondering if that means we're missing something in this one that we should have. And so I'm and not being really deep into this stuff and knowing what this actual section that's not in here right now that was in Representative Hicks, how important that is to have this other section in there. What might we be missing that we should have in this that she had in her original bill?
Is there anyone in the room who would know how to answer Representative Fisher's question? Ms. Sunderman.
Mr. Chair and members, the citation that Representative Fisher noted is the current citation that is in the Minnesota rules, and it's just drafted differently, so it's instructing the commissioner to remove that existing citation that's incorrect and replace it with the citation that is in both bills. It's a difference in drafting approach, essentially, and can be reconciled if this moves forward.
Representative Hicks.
I think the takeaway is that no one listened when Kim talked 3 weeks ago.
That's not true.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to the nonpartisan staff. So under this, the rulemaking section, the federal section, does this bring the entire anti-kickback federal rules, meaning that everything that is within that section, which is included in? I know definitely it changes based on which sections we pick up. So with that section, does it bring the entire anti-kickback rule?
Ms. Sunderman.
Mr. Chair, members, I believe this brings in the entire piece of U.S. code that relates to illegal remunerations, yes.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we need to be looking into how that can be implemented because it expands the scope of what is already defined in the rules and what's defined also under 609.542. So we'll have more discussion with the agency and also with the experts in the room. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Knorr. Is there anyone else? Any other questions for the bill author? Final word, Representative Franson.
This is a good bill. Thank you.
With that, Representative Franson renews her motion that House File 4566 be laid over for possible inclusion. And so it is. And Chair Knorr, anything for tomorrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have several bills tomorrow so that we can get ready for the DE bill on Thursday. So hopefully we can manage to complete our business tomorrow and then get ready for the policy bill on Thursday. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And with that, we get to Representative Franson.
Mr. Chair, are we going to be blessed by this room at all on Friday?
I guess you'll have to wait and see, Representative Franson.
Because I'd like to make
no,
plans.
Not at all. With that, we are adjourned.